Welcome back. Today's financial topic, what comes after I do? To break it down, we are joined by Mark Matthews with Edward Jones. Mark, thank you for joining us today.
Glad to be here, Mary Grace.
Glad to be speaking with you. So marriage is more than a ceremony, Mark. It's a union of families and, of course, finances. So we're going to be talking about how to talk finances with your partner and kind of how you plan for the future together whenever it comes to that. And let's go ahead and start with, how can we start the conversation surrounding finances with your partner, Mark?
And people should not be afraid to talk about finances. And one of the things you can do to start the conversation is talk about your short and long-term goals. You might find that you have similar goals and it's easy to plan for, but you definitely want to know what your partner's goals are. Long-term, do you want children? Any change of careers? Things like that. Where do you want to live? And just share your feelings about money. How was it handled when you grew up? How do you view it? How do you use it? Here's a good question. Are you both spenders? Are you both savers? Or one of each? And so that's good to know. If you're both spenders, you need to have some way to kind of make sure that both of you don't spend freely, too frivolously all the time. That can be a problem. If you're both savers, that's probably not a bad thing. Excuse me. It's also good to be honest about your current financial situation. If you have things you own, things you owe on, student loan debt, other kinds of debt, that shouldn't be a secret to your partner really any time, and certainly not when you get married. So, and you just want to be able to know where your household stands. Do we owe money? Do we have money to invest? Do we have savings to protect us in the face of life's challenges and that type of thing? Having a budget to help align towards your spending goals and your savings goals is really a helpful tool as well. It takes a little work to make that happen, but it's definitely worth doing. And one thing that I find here is that most couples have the lead money person, and it could be the husband, could be the wife, but there's usually one person that kind of leads the way on investing and spending, not exclusively, but in large part. So, and maybe you have a divvy up the responsibility of, you pay these bills, I pay those bills. We'll talk about big purchases together, but iron those things out ahead of time.
Yeah, there's lots to talk about ahead of time before you're married, and lots to kind of iron out there. And then once you do get married, there's definitely some key things to address right away. What are some key things to focus on once you are married?
Yeah, so if you both have employer benefits on health care and insurance, you want to make sure those are up to date, have the right beneficiary. We know people that have left their ex-spouse or their parents or someone else, and they pass away, and what was meant for their current spouse goes someplace else. That's a real thing to be aware of. You can adjust your W-4 for taxes to reflect that you're married, and there's different deduction levels for a couple versus a single person. Make sure you're on each other's car insurance. Eventually, that'll all kind of blend together, but initially, you've had insurance, they've had insurance. Make sure that your spouse is insured when they're driving your vehicle, which probably will happen sometime. And something else that we talk about every once in a while is, your estate documents. Once you're a family, and maybe you've got children from one or the other or both, to have a will, a medical directive, powers of attorney, things like that. And that might be something that a newlywed couple that's 25 years old digs into right off the bat, but it will come about soon enough. And so those are some adulting things that can come into play as you get married.
Absolutely. Lots to look at with a union of finances. Mark, how can we reach out for advice on this?
Yeah, so edwardjones.com is quick and easy. You can search for St. Joseph or your zip code, and that will tell you who's in your area that you can call up and work with. So Very easy.
All right, very easy. Again, Mark Matthews with Edward Jones. Mark, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Mary Grace.